Subject 5 situation for Innovoca Labs, Archive A at site. February 14th, 2030. For the past few years, Altera and Osloterra have been engaging in an almost Cold War. However, the ongoing threat of a nuclear attack by Altera had been going on the entire time. As we all know, eventually Altera led the attack with two members of the superfauna ecosystem, Titanus tremorzilis, destroying most of Altera. And a few hours after leaving, they set off the Mark I Altera's Glory nuclear bomb that was waiting for years underneath Osloterra's center. Another event every person in the Outgropin continent should be aware of is the rise and the fall of the superfauna known as the chicken. A cursed sentient chicken that grew to tremendous size almost destroyed Osloterra and then was taken down by the founder of the now next state of Osloterra, Chicken Terra, Russell Watkins. What most don't know, however, is that the remains of the chicken were buried on Osloterran soil, as the creator of the chicken was sentimental for them. During the nuclear war on Osloterran grounds, the remains of the creature were heavily irradiated, mutating it underground. A few months after the war had concluded, and Osloterra was being rebuilt following its independence, the remains of the chicken, now referred to as Subject 5, were dug up by an Osloterran civilian who will remain unnamed, and hidden in his home. They had shrunken down to only a handful of flesh-like substance, and were easily transported to his basement. According to statements from the anonymous civilian, after 4 months of eating things like plants, meat, resources like metal, and even 5 other Osloterran civilians who were going missing over the span of the 4 months, Subject 5 grew from a small blob of flesh to a larger blob, that eventually glowing into a larger, featherless, bird-like creature about 7 feet tall and 8 feet long. The civilian managed to keep Subject 5 a secret in his basement for all this time, until one night it broke out and was found in the morning, attempting to digest a mushroom in the Osloterran plain runway. The mushroom was found with the entire rear end of its body engulfed in the mouth of Subject 5. Upon being discovered like this by Rebecca Sorrenta, an Osloterran citizen, the Osloterran government was contacted and President Guckett forwarded to an Alterran organization known as Novica Laboratories. An NVKL capture team arrived at the scene minutes later and separated the mushroom from Subject 5. Its lower tissues had been dissolved and consumed, and it died shortly after being removed from Subject 5. It seems it was being kept alive in some way. Why or how is unknown. The capture squad successfully captured Subject 5, and it was being delivered to a secluded island off the east coast of Altera, and contained in a small specialized facility designed for the proper containment of Subject 5's current state. These are the containment procedures for Subject
5. Objective: to safely contain Subject 5 and prevent potential breaches. 1. Containment cell specifications. The containment cell is constructed from reinforced, non-organic materials. The cell must be completely sealed with no openings, preventing escape routes or access to organic matter. The interior should have minimal surfaces for the creature to grasp or leverage for mobility. Restraints must be secured to prevent any movement capable of generating momentum. 2. Restraint protocol. Subject 5 must remain in a fixed position within the containment cell at all times. Use heavy-duty titanium restraints specifically designed to restrict any form of physical movement. 3. Monitoring systems. Install a redstone-engineered infrared camera sensor positioned no less than 1 inch in front of one of the creature's eyes. The camera must be able to detect eye movement and muscle contractions indicative of a creature's intentions. Continuous monitoring must be logged and assessed by the on-site research team for any behavioral changes that may indicate an impending containment breach. 4. Personnel and staffing requirements. The facility will operate with a mandatory personnel count of 12 individuals at all times on site. 4 armed guards outside, responsible for perimeter security and rapid response to containment breaches. 2 researchers, tasked with observing Subject 5 and analyzing data from the infrared monitoring system. 2 armed guards inside, positioned within the facility to respond to any internal threats. 4 repair personnel, maintain the structural integrity and operational systems of the facility. 5. Facility design. The facility must include the following rooms. Lavender, designed with non-organic fixtures to ensure no organic matter can be introduced. Observation station, a secure room for researchers to monitor the creature and evaluate data without direct contact. Housing/barracks, accommodations for the 12 personnel, ensuring they remain within proximity for rapid response and collaborative observation. 6. Island regulations and environment. Strict enforce a no organic life policy on the island. The only organic beings permitted are designated personnel. Conduct regular inspections to ensure compliance with the organic-free environment. And materials or equipment introduced to the island must be verified as non-organic to prevent accidental breaches. 7. Emergency protocol. In case of containment breach, activate the facility lockdown protocol to secure all entry points. Initiate an island-wide security alert and mobilize all armed guards to contain and recapture Subject 5. Evacuate personnel to fortified sections of the facility until the situation is resolved. Note: all personnel must undergo training regarding the behavior of Subject 5 and potential breach scenarios to ensure preparedness and safety throughout the facility. Regular drills should be conducted to maintain readiness.
Following the successful containment of Subject 5, the 2 researchers appointed at the facility, Dr. Rachel and Dr. Aaron, started to conduct research on the creature, documenting its behavior in captivity, its level of intelligence, and its other traits. Subject 5 showed to be incredibly hyper-aware of its surroundings based off the limited information we were able to decipher from the infrared scans on its eyes. The creature also proceeded to show incredible intelligence for a non-human descended life form. While it showed its advanced intelligence, we found that its brain, was scrambled between different levels of awareness at different times. We believe that its mind is split into different pieces from every living organism that the creature had consumed prior to its containment, dispersing the consciousness to each individual who was assimilated into the singular brain of Subject 5. Apart from one, the original form of Subject 5, a chicken named Mr. C, was the one singular mind left inside the creature, holding on by a thread to not be consumed into the hive mind. Upon realizing this, Dr. called and in to engineer a device that works off the infrared scans of the Subject 5's eye and formulate actual responses from the creature, specifically Mr. C. The first few attempts were unsuccessful, but eventually Dr. was able to interact with Mr. C. We will play the audio recording now. My Dr. 's voice will be censored.
Yes. Yes. I can hear, see, feel darkness. No, distraught, animalistic. I miss my father. Kill me.
that following this event, the consciousness of Mr. C was at last assimilated into the hive mind, and Subject 5 was now one, a cumulative creature with no single sentience. The alarm you heard was an evacuation alert of the facility, not originally thought to be caused by anything related to Subject 5, which was now named Polyphragmitis, but was soon discovered to be indeed an event directly tied to it. Four large flesh-like fungal growths appeared around the containment island. One was in Altera Carolina, one was in Altera America, one was in the Great Oak Forest, and one was in southern Savannah. All of these creatures named assimilators were given their name after showing their innate capability to consume any living organisms that go within reach of their many tendrils. All four of them were 30 to 35 feet in height and emitted a deep guttural sound. Each of them managed to assimilate numerous creatures of their respective biomes. However, the assimilators that were located in Altera Carolina and Altera America were the most dangerous. They both managed to consume 9 human and testificate lives in total. The assimilator in Altera Carolina absorbed 4 testificate civilians: Norman Newson, Victoria Newson, Anthony Robert, and Lisa Parker. The assimilator in Altera America consumed 5 human civilians: Jessica White, Jonathan Parker, Katie Wan, Richard Reedith, and Jacob Carpenter. The 9 citizens that were consumed were later rebirthed from the base of the assimilators, 3 of which, Norman Newson, Anthony Robert, and Jessica White, had restructured bodies that were unable to survive and were recreated as nothing but piles of tissue and eyes. But the other 6 victims were recreated into human-like deformed creatures whose original DNA was seemingly spliced with the organisms of the other 2 assimilators absorbed into other locations. Victoria Newson was seemingly infused with primarily giraffe DNA. Lisa Parker was seemingly infused with primarily cardinal DNA. Jonathan Parker was seemingly infused with primarily gazelle DNA. Katie Wan was seemingly infused with primarily subpteranodon DNA. This one is speculative, as if it was DNA from a subpteranodon, it would have needed to be previously consumed prior to containment somehow. Richard Reedith was seemingly infused with primarily firefly DNA, and Jacob Carpenter was seemingly infused with primarily crab DNA. 5 of these individuals were able to escape into the wilderness. However, NVKL were able to capture one of them, Victoria Newson. She was transferred to a testing facility and equipped with the same sensor technology Subject 5 was, and began being asked questions. We were not recording this conversation, as basically all of our resources were dedicated towards evacuation and extermination of the 4 assimilators. We do have a spoken description of the events from Dr. It was gathered that these new forms of these unfortunate people are at a complete lack of sentience. However, inside, out of control, live the victims, fully aware of the state they're in, fully conscious, but completely unable to control their new bodies in any way. Increasingly obvious that the forces of Nova Golaus were incapable of eradicating the 4 assimilators. Conventional weaponry was damaging the creatures slower than they could rapidly regenerate. Even explosions were utilized in attempts to exterminate the assimilators, but it was found that they have deep roots that could then completely regenerate from. NVKL investigated where the veiny roots of the assimilators led, with underground scans in search of some sort of heart. But instead of a heart, all 4 of them led back to the Subject 5 containment island. It seems that Subject 5, Polyphragmitis, managed to seep through the smallest crevice inside of its containment chamber and grow its hyphae miles through the ground, all ending up in the 4 locations of the assimilators. The capabilities that Subject 5 possessed were far beyond initial estimates. The fungus-like traits it gained during its consumption of the mushroom had enhanced its monster's abilities to a far more dangerous level. In the containment facility, Subject 5 had begun growing growing out of its restraints, consuming the mass of the creatures that the assimilators were absorbing. It wasn't long before Subject 5 grew out of its containment chamber and began heading east towards the assimilator in the Great Oak Forest. It is believed that upon entering the ocean, Subject 5 attracted the attention of Subjects 1 and 2, a pair of fully matured Titanus tremorzilis. Subject 1 appeared from the shores in Altera America and was hostile towards the assimilator there. Subject 2 was heading towards Subject 5, and upon entering the Great Oak Forest, Subject 5 was met by Subject 2. Subject 2, being 75 feet in height, versus Subject 5, who was 15 feet in height at this point, was unfazed by the creature and went in to attack it via melee. Subject 5 grappled onto Subject 2, and despite being unable to really harm the Tremorzilla, it was capable of creeping its flesh between the crevices in Subject 2's scales, leeching the Titan's blood, absorbing it. Subject 5 began to grow rapidly, absorbing the Titanus Tremorzilla cells. It gained its traits. Subject 5 grew spines from its back, hardened skin that resembled scales, and 75 feet taller. The now 90-foot-tall Polyformimus clashed with the Tremorzilla. Using its newfound durability to withstand Tremorzilla's attacks, it continued to absorb the creature's DNA to add to itself. Eventually absorbing enough to where Subject 5 began to glow yellow from the inside. As its new spines illuminated brighter than its skin, it let out multiple high-focused lasers from various orifices in its body. But not its mouth. As opposed to the Tremorzilla's main ability, its atomic breath it could unleash from its mouth. None of the beams collided with the Tremorzilla. As the creature was now incredibly agitated, it started to charge up its own atomic beam, unleashing a much stronger attack on the Polyformimus from its mouth, melting the flesh from the creature's body, creating a literal hole through the body of the monster. As Subject 1, the other Tremorzilla, managed to obliterate the three other assimilators, and changed its course to the Great Oak Forest to aid its partner in the battle against Subject 5. The creature started to heal from the attack, incredibly immobilized but not dead. The pair of Tremorzillas began to charge up their atomic breaths in sync, but in half the time it took them to do so, Subject 5's spines let out blinding light, as it released dozens of atomic beams in every direction, many colliding with the two Tremorzillas, not piercing their skin, but throwing them both to the ground as Subject 5 completed its regeneration and mutated its body further. While its opponents were on the ground, it unleashed many long tendrils into the mouths of the Tremorzillas, further absorbing their cells, growing itself, but not displaying much evolution of its other abilities, like unleashing atomic blasts more accurately. Subjects 1 and 2 both unreleased their atomic breaths, incinerating Subject 5 tendrils that were in their mouths and getting back up, aiming the rest of their attack on the creature, melting through its skin once more, but its form started to change again, anchoring itself to the ground via hyphae and further evolving itself. There is one more major trait that it absorbed from the Tremorzilla DNA. Titanus Tremorzillas don't feed on traditional sources of nutrients, instead feeding off of large amounts of radiation to survive, which Subject 5 began to do as well. As the monster grew to an astonishing 180 feet in height, it began to grow different appendages around its body like branches, as it started to rapidly absorb the radiation from inside the Tremorzilla's bodies. With their main source of energy being depleted incredibly fast, the pair of Titans quickly left the forest, deeming the territory the Polyformimuses. Following the events of Subject 5's terror, the creature now remains dormant in the Great Oak Forest, east of Altera, only posing as a threat to the local wildlife as it assimilates it, adding to its mass. Novica Laboratories has announced the forest is highly illegal to travel to, and have reinforced their facility's containment chambers, ensuring that no crevices are left unnoticed again to avoid something like this happening again. A law has been placed in Ozotera that any unusual sightings must be immediately relayed to the government as soon as possible. And keeping knowledge of said unusual sightings secret is illegal and punishable by death. The lives lost during this tragedy will never be forgotten.